All right, guys, how's it going? Fishing California with EBA. Today, we're talking all about fishing. Really want to talk to you guys today about how to avoid losing fish, how to avoid losing, fish in general, freshwater, saltwater, how to avoid losing fish. It's a constant theme. You hear guys running around saying, "Oh, I had this big fish, this fish story, if you will." And at the end of the day, they didn't get the fish in. A lot of times they never saw the fish. What can you do to avoid those kinds of situations? Obviously, those are the worst type situations you can run into, but just avoid those disasters. Avoid those memories that kind of will haunt you for years to come. What can you do about losing fish? What are the most important things to remember when you're thinking about landing your fish? And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to avoid losing a lot of those fish in general. So this is going to apply to small fish, big fish, trophy fish, and then we're going to break down some of the trophy stuff, the bigger fish stuff, and how to play those situations in specific. Right now, the one thing we're going to talk about is just in general how to avoid right now, and then later on in the video we'll kind of break down big fish examples, big fish situations. But right now, let's just talk about being able to land more fish and not lose as many fish, avoid losing those important fish. So right now, I'm going to talk about your drag being an important key to this. Where you set your drag. Some people really like to set their drag tighter. Some people like it lighter. Some people like it right in the middle. I think it depends on what you're doing, but a lot of the time, guys have this a little bit too tight, a little bit too much. They got their drag just cranked down way too much for the presentation, for whatever it is. I even hear guys with the big baits say, you can't, I'm going to get a wrench and crank it down, throwing a big bait because that big fish might bend out the hook, these types of situations. So, I mean, it's just one of the things that for sure is going to affect how many fish are landing, is going to be that drag. So I like to really have an 80-20 drag. Sometimes I might up that to 85-15, 90-10, but I'm never going full max because I want to have it, I like to have it set so that I can back it up, say 2-3 notches, depending on the caliber of fish I hook into. And this really allows you to like play your average fish on your general standard stock. That's the setting that that's what you like. That's maybe, let's just call it 90-10, 90% lockdown on that drag. 9 out of the 10 gears down. But then as soon as I hook up and I've got a good hook set, that's when, if it's a bigger caliber fish, I'm going to back it up 2 to 3 clicks. If it's a really, really big fish, like say trophy, I still, through experience, have learned that more than 3 clicks back, the minute you hit 4 and 5 clicks back from the sweet spot that you start at, you're really just, that reel is trying to adjust. That fish has a moment there to really change direction, and basically you lose the leverage in the fight. So you're going to lose a lot of leverage, and the fish is going to turn. He's going to basically, you're going to be at a disadvantage at that point. So you don't want that situation. A lot of times those are the situations where you're excited, maybe your blood's pumping, your heart's beating a little extra fast, and big fish don't come, these trophies don't come every day. So when you do hook up into them, being able to know exactly what to do, having a set plan, so just knowing what you're going to do in those situations and being prepared to do it, is going to allow you to land more fish. So you might like it different. You might like it at 80% drag clicked on, and then 20%, so you might like the other 80-20. You might only like it 8 out of 10 clicks in. But the reality is when you get the big fish, you can't really click it back more than 3. As soon as you go 4 clicks back, I've personally lost some fish that way. It's actually been the worst thing I can do. I don't care if it's 6 pound or 8 pound test line. I don't care about any of that. the minute you give him any room to change the angle, change his direction, go into that bush, go into the tree, go into something that's submerged, get wrapped around something, a rock, timber, brace it, things that are going to, create line abrasion. You don't want those situations. You don't want them going into a grass mat, lily pads. You don't want them in the sticks. You don't want them in the toolies. All that's going to do is make that situation that much harder, landing that fish. So really important is, have it set where you like it, which most, like I said, fairly simple, and know what you're going to do when you're in that situation, so that when you're in it, you don't back up too much or not enough, because there's also times when, let's just say, you have it too tight. Big line. I don't care if you got big game line. If you're running 30-pound test fluoro, I don't care if you're running 6-pound fluoro. I don't care if you're going straight or if you got braid. I mean, there's things that happen. This gear hardware, sometimes somewhere along the lines, pieces break, things fail, hardware fails, hooks bend out. Situations on these big fish are really really serious, because they happen in this small window, usually, these fights. And that's another thing, is I see a lot of people try to horse big fish in, which I think creates a lot of extra duress, stress, and stuff that this tackle is actually not made and designed for. I think these are anglers just trying to look cool. Maybe I'm gonna boat flip this big fish. That's not what that hook was designed for. It's not a boat flipping big bait hook meant to catch trophy fish and boat flip them. So I think a lot of this is the fact that you got to play the fish, you got to set your drag, you got to know what you're kind of, like I said, you have to have a starting point, and then from there, I like to count my clicks. So I'm going to count the clicks on the drag. I'm going to count them. I'm going to know where my sweet spot is. Depending on the size of the game fish you're focusing on, freshwater, saltwater, doesn't matter. You're going to kind of know how many pounds of pressure to pull on the line. When I set the drag, say 7, 8 clicks, I'm testing that line, seeing how much pressure, how much resistance it's showing, how hard I have to pull. Generally, the way I look at it is, you want about 2 pounds of pressure as a kind of bare minimum. That's the standard, trout fishing, bass fishing. I don't care what you're going for. Small game fish, freshwater, saltwater. That's kind of the pressure that you want if you're out there fishing for perch. 2-pound pressure when you pull. And I'd say when you're starting to talk those 5+ pound fish, and then I'd say go up to 5 pounds of pressure, and you start talking 10 pounds of fish, 10 pounds of pressure. 20-pound game, you need to have 20 pounds of pressure. You need to actually apply that same amount of weight, pressure, to simulate. A lot of times I want to talk about knots. I want to talk about double checking knots. I want to talk about just double checking the line strength, the knot, everything, the setup after. I want to talk about doing that not just after you tie it, but throughout the fishing, throughout your fishing day. Your time on the water, you're gonna pull it in. Sometimes just you pull it out of things. Just check it again. A lot of times, if it's gonna break, you're gonna actually get it to break. Save your bait, save yourself a headache and some time. But also, those situations where you're running stuff through stuff, and oh, well, it should be fine. And a lot of the times it might be, but when you get that big fish, or that trophy fish especially, it's not going to be fine. So I would say the little things, the attention to the little things, little details, that really make the big difference in the end. I'd say focus, guys, on everything that's a fundamental. So those little tiny, little things like rod tips, line getting wrapped around a rod tip on a big fish fight, because the line sometimes might have a memory, because you've had it on the reel or the reel for a long time, and the memory on the line makes it kind of webby, makes it kind of ratty, kind of makes it windy, twisty, and a lot of times just having that wrap randomly around your rod tip on that big fish, because those big fish are so intense, those battles, and they're so that moment, line wraps around the rod tip, bam, big fish gone, trophy fish, because you didn't change the line in, I don't know, a year, 12 months, 10 months, who knows. But the reality is that's the kind of stuff that you're going to want to prevent. You're going to want to think about these situations where maybe you've been in, or situations you almost got into, situations that are possible, and then try to eliminate them one by one, just making small decisions. So I'm trying to think of, the other important things that are really big. I would say control, control, learning to be able to have that control, full control, and really use everything, understanding that, and then lastly, I would say, just understanding the rod, the rods you're using, not going too heavy with certain power rods, not overpowering your baits with rods that are too heavy, too stiff, too much of a backbone. Really gonna set you up to fail. I mean, it doesn't matter. A lot of the times you're not going to get the casting distance you might want. A lot of times it's not going to load up right, but you're also going to have a lot of lost fish. You're going to have a lot of breaking, setups that break. You're going to have situations where hardware fails. So I really hope this guys helps you guys out. I hope that you guys get on more fish. We're going to talk about something new soon. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys.